Hey everybody, and welcome to my little corner of the internet where we take a quick peek at little gems around the gaming world that I've discovered and discuss why I love or hate them and introduce you to them, which is the most important part. So sit back, relax, and be disturbed by Limbo. So let's answer the very first question I have every episode. What the hell is Limbo? Well, Limbo, aside from having an extremely grim world and grim story, is a 2D side-scrolling puzzle platformer in the likes of Mario. You'll be going right a lot, jumping, and flipping plenty of switches that can do a variety of things from lowering a box to reversing gravity, and sometimes all of that at once. You'll need to keep your wits about you as you traverse the world of Limbo, though, as almost every section of the game is designed to kill you at least once. It's part of the experience, so you better embrace it. It relies heavily on trial and error, and death is part of the story. It's what makes this game as fun as it is. The checkpoints after death are almost always right before the puzzle and are extremely forgiving in that sense. You can jump right back into it and die a whole new different way as you attempt to solve the puzzle laid before you. The game also relies heavily on physics-based puzzles to string you along through the game, especially the later stages where trying to get a certain box to a certain point can only be done by manipulating gravity a certain way. It's difficult, it's deadly, and it's damn fun. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I had a very difficult time narrowing down this game's strengths to just 5, but I'm going to do it. By golly, it's my goal. So just listen to me, hear me out, and I'm going to explain why each one of these strengths is really a strength of the game. I'm going to start with the story. Sure, it's bare bones, it's vague, it's heart-wrenching, but without going into too much detail, just know that you're a little boy who wakes up on the ground. There's no backstory here, no clue as to how you got there. Shortly thereafter, you begin to wander into a dangerous world of big spiders, tribal children, and constant death. Your only goal is to eventually find a little girl. Who she is, why she's important is unknown. You can make assumptions, maybe she's a childhood friend, maybe she's your sister, but you just keep looking. Little hints as to what's going on are throughout the game, and it's up to you to decide what kind of story you pulled from your experience at the end. Alright, next up is the gameplay. The platforming in this game is exceptionally strong. Responsive and tight, the physics also work really well. The puzzles aren't too difficult except toward the end a bit, and if you just put a little thought and some trial and error into the game, you're sure to figure it all out. You run, you jump, and you grab things. It's simple, it works. What more could you possibly need out of a game like this? Alright. I know I seem to say this a lot in my indie corners, but I think it's what makes a lot of these indie games so great, and that's the atmosphere. The simple black and white art style, the eerie sounds, the silhouettes of other children and big spiders looming in machinery is excellent. It's depressing as hell, as it should be, and I loved it, and that's why I list it here. The atmosphere is one of this game's biggest selling points, and you should never turn that down, especially when considering an indie game to throw some money at. So yes, atmosphere is going to be listed as my number 3. Talking about the atmosphere actually leads me straight into my next strength, which is going to be this game's art. Again, the black and white 2D style was a great choice for this game in the world that it created. And after you've played the game, it'll make a whole lot more sense to you as to why. I don't think the game would have been nearly effective any other way. When this big silhouette of this spider shows up and starts to attack you and kind of try and kill you in many, many ways, your imagination kind of does the rest. Sure, it's just a little silhouette of what could potentially be a spider, but it's your imagination that fills in the blanks of what that spider looks like, especially if you're an arachnophobe. It does such a great job at letting your imagination fill in all those holes, and that's for everything else. The tribal children, the machinery, no detail is there, and it's not needed because it lets your mind do the rest for you. And the final strength, which may be a little weird to some of you, is going to be the music. And I loved it for that reason. And the reason it might be weird is because there's so little of it, and it's so quiet, or it's just not there at all, which is great. Which I might rename this from music to sound. Sometimes you can hear small instrumental music in the background as you play. Sometimes you hear absolutely nothing at all, and it's just the ambient noises and the noises of the things around you that are really kind of setting the scene, setting the mood. Now that I think about it, I don't even know which is creepier. Is it the noise, the ambient sounds that really kind of makes this game feel as it is, or is it the music that every once in a while pops up? Anyway, it's really exceptionally eerie, it works all the way around, and I loved it. Okay, so I had a really super hard time coming up with weaknesses for the game, but I got a couple things that I think I could gripe about, and no game is really perfect, so let's list the two things. The first one is going to be the length. The length of the game is short. It ends extremely abruptly. It's not that the game ends unsatisfyingly, that's just wrong, it does. It's just that you don't see the end coming. When you expect another puzzle ahead of you, and then bam, it's all over, it's jarring. You get the credits, you're like, oh, that was it? It's a game that kind of begs another playthrough, knowing what to expect, and you can just do a little bit more exploration into the game world itself as you play a second time, and I highly suggest you play this game multiple times. And the second weakness, which is kind of a little bit nitpicky in my opinion, are the game's late game puzzles. Some of the puzzles are meant to kill you once or twice before you figure it out, which is fine. Again, as I said earlier, that's part of the experience. But towards the end of the game, it just seems to shove its middle finger up at you a couple times and gives you puzzles that are really friggin' difficult, overly so, even just to figure it out. The answers should always be difficult, don't get me wrong, they should always be difficult to obtain, but never on the verge of impossible. It was only luck that I was able to figure out some of the puzzles towards the end of the game. Again, it only happens one or two times, but it's enough to kind of throw a gripe at you. It feels like with those kinds of puzzles, developers almost feel like they're extending gameplay by false means, and I don't think that's something game developers should do. Again, it doesn't happen many times, but when it does, it's really, really frustrating. And that's it, man. That's all I got for weaknesses. So let's move on to my final opinion. Alright, so moving on to the final opinion of the game. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it somewhere in the middle? I think it's pretty obvious that you guys can tell that I loved the game, because I did. I absolutely adored it. Overall, the game is great. It does exactly what it sets out to do. Create a deadly world with deadly puzzles, a very sad and engrossing story with mysteries at every turn, and has extremely tight, responsive platforming controls. This game is worth your time and your money, and I urge you to go and try it. That said, it's up to you. If you don't know if you want to go check out the game, the link to my playthrough is going to be right in the video, so go check it out. Maybe it's yours, maybe it's not. Hopefully you guys will give it a try, kind of risk it a little bit and give it a shot. I think it's well worth your time. And I hope you guys, as always, enjoyed my Indie Corner, as that is going to be the end of this current episode. This is Matt the StarCraft, and I'll see you all next time.